The entire crisis, if you go back, it started because something called FDTL, which is what DGCA was trying to implement. What is FDTL? It's flight duty time limitation. It's basically a sked being prepared for the pilots. It's exactly because of the reason that the moment the company grows bigger, the efficiency starts falling. So what has happened in this case? Who blinked first? It's DGCA which blinked first. Institutions must necessarily be independent. And these are regulatory bodies, must have teeth. They must be able to bite.
Hello and welcome. I'm Srinivasan and this is Talking Sense with Srini. We've got a very interesting topic today. It's monopoly, duopoly, if left unchecked, leads to oligopoly, a topic that's not really been spoken much in the public domain, but leads to a lot of crisis, particularly in the backdrop of the IndiGo chaos that's happening across airports, where tens of thousands of people have been left in lurch. Joining us to discuss more is our editor-in-chief, Srinivasan. Thank you very much indeed for your time, sir. I want to begin with the IndiGo chaos. The IndiGo chaos has reignited concerns about monopolistic institutions, particularly in the aviation sector. You see this as some kind of a one-off scenario, or you see this as a trend that's happening across industries and Indian businesses today?
Yeah, so, it's been for a while now, people have been talking about it, that whether some of the, industries are getting monopolistic. And this has been a discussion for a while now. But this is for the first time that something has exploded in the consumer space. Right in your face, something has come up where you see thousands of passengers standing at the airport, not able to get their next flight. So this has happened for the first time in that sense. But the talks have been around. Now, this is not something new. It's been there for a while that should a market become monopolistic or not. Earlier there was a legislation called MRTP Act.
That's right.
Which is Monopolies Restrictive Trade Act, which was scrapped in 1991 of the economic reforms. I remember earlier that there was a widespread debate. Now, earlier the cap was 25% market share, so no company should be allowed to grow beyond that. That was a cap.
Isn't that too stringent?
It was pretty bad, not just stringent. It didn't allow companies to grow.
Yeah.
So that was considered pretty bad. So as a result, what happened is, there is a kind of an inspector Raj. Suppose you are manufacturing tire, for instance, and you had a limit that you can only manufacture, say, 1,000 tires. If you crossed and you even produce one more, you'd be punished. I mean, that was a kind of regime pre-reforms.
Yeah.
But following reforms, there was discussion, negotiation, what should be the limit of MRTP. Some people said, let's settle it around, some economists said, not on the number of,
production.
Not on
share.
production, let's put it on financial caps. So they discussed, should it be 100 crores, 2,000 crores, 5,000 crores. Fortunately, they made it limitless. So there's no limit on that as far as, so the companies can grow. But then it was replaced by another kind of a setup, another piece of legislation, which was called Competition Commission of India.
That's right, yeah.
Now that's important because as we reform, as we move away from market economy to more free economy, what is that India should be doing? And this is not new, it's been happening for the last 3-4 decades, that you have powerful regulatory setups. You allow private companies to participate in a business, allow them to grow the way they want, but you keep an eye on them. That's what this Competition Commission of India is supposed to do, so that there is a certain order in the market, that there is no one company which becomes monopolistic and start distorting the market.
It's a kind of a watchdog.
Right. Unfortunately, India, you take any sector, it's not been happening. Now, you take it telecom. You take, again, there are monopolistic tendencies.
There's
kind of a duopoly
telecom,
emerging.
Yeah.
So if you say...
It's Airtel versus Jio.
Exactly, cement. There are many such sectors which are emerging.
That's right. Aditya Birla, Ambuja Cement.
Exactly. And then you also see there are conglomerates, private groups which are multiple businesses. And they're also emerging as big oligopolies in their own terms. Earlier people used to say Birla Tata. That was a slogan in the
Now it's Ambani,
early
Adani.
50s. Now the things have changed now. So the point here is that how do you manage them so that you don't see another crisis like this? So that is a real question, and it's something which the government must look into it. And today I think Prime Minister also had a discussion. I'm sure it wasn't just limited to how to manage IndiGo. It should be much larger in scope. That's what I feel.
Okay, let me keep the focus on aviation for a moment. You spoke about the monopolistic institutions there, but tell us, for an average user like us, what really matters is safe travel, affordable prices. But how are these monopolistic institutions affecting the end consumer, be it the service level, or be it at the pricing level, or be it in terms of choices as well?
Look, I think brand building happens. Corporates do brand building, and I'm sure I'm of a view that consumers must pay attention to these kind of things. They can't just shut their eyes and think this is not what we should look into. We are only concerned about services. End of the day, when monopolistic tendencies strike, it's the services which get affected. And let's take Indian market. I think in Indian market, consumers really at the receiving end. We have no safeguards. We have nothing a consumer can do. Though there are many, like you have a consumer addressal forum.
That's right.
There are consumer codes.
Yeah.
All those kinds of things are there. But it's so difficult that many people just leave it. So consumers are always at a receiving end as far as India is concerned. Even you, for instance, you take aviation. Now what happened? There is no kind of a situation here where the airline gives you some kind of a monetary return. That, okay, we have flopped here, we'll return some kind of a compensation we give you. It doesn't happen in India.
Yeah.
But other airlines world over it happens. And in Europe, their amendment was made to ensure that such a thing do not happen, and they did it. So for instance, I'll tell you, there was one big, it's not, aviation sector is slightly different. It's slightly difficult to manage as compared to other, and the crisis can blow up any time there. So here are some reports. In 2017, Ryanair rostering error.
That's right,
it resulted in 20,000 cancellations. 2022 in US Southwest Airline, 16,700 flights were cancelled in 10 days. And then similarly, British Airways suffered a major IT failure, and even they had to cancel. So these kind of things keep happening because you see, aviation is a very fragile sector globally. It's not just India. But then let's look at what could be the comparable market with whom we can compare us, a country of India's size. I think the best, let's look at the US market. Now, they have at least 7 or 8 airlines. They have Delta, United Airlines, both market share of 21% each. American Airlines 20%, Southwest Airlines 13%, and all others 6 and below. There are other airlines. So what happens even if there is a crisis with a certain airline, the passengers could be equally distributed among other airlines, and then a situation could be managed. But what happened in the case of IndiGo? People were left stranded, and people they will all be fuming in the airport because they would be sitting there and wondering what to do. 8 to 9 hours, some people sat, newly-wed children.
That's right, yeah.
Mothers, daughters, all kinds of situations you saw, emotional scenes at the airport. What happened after that? Nothing. Next day, they have to forget and get onto the same aircraft. They don't have an alternative because look at this market size. It was 32% in 2014, IndiGo, and today it is 65%. And there is almost a duopoly because the next one is Air India, which has a market share of about 26-27%. So combined, they have a stranglehold over the market. So where will the consumer go? He has no choice.
So, you had a very interesting point that you said, IndiGo had a market share about 30% 10 years back, and now they have about 65%. And certainly IndiGo grew from scratch. It's no company that was parachuted to the top. So, because IndiGo was able to provide that scale and, great service, that people have willingly chose IndiGo, and IndiGo is today what it is today. So, but why blame the company right now? So I think, it's not about the company getting monopolistic, but because they offer that great quality of service, and they automatically become monopolistic. Isn't it the way?
See, the thing is, IndiGo made a name for himself on 2-3 things.
Yeah.
They were their efficiency was there in terms of timing. They maintained very good timing. They almost reached every place on time, and they took pride in that, and that's one thing which worked for them. Second, largely new planes, so they were kept well. The turnaround time of aircraft was very quick. They could turn around for next flight. They could ready the aircraft very quickly, and their staff was better trained. All those things people did like, and therefore they preferred it.
Yeah.
But then, at what cost? The entire crisis, if you go back, it started because something called FDTL, which is what DGCA was trying to implement. What is FDTL? It's flight duty time limitation. It's basically a sched being prepared for the pilots, saying that your number of flying hours should be restricted in a week. Now, for instance, it should be 36 to 48 hours. And then after that, they shouldn't fly more. They should get some rest. Similarly, it was made mandatory by the new laws that the night flights should not be more than 1 or 2. Right now it is 4 or 5. And it really caused a lot of stress on the pilots.
That's
Look
right,
at this.
The safety concerns as
Safety is a big issue.
That's right.
For aviation sector, 2025 for India has not been good. There's one major accident recently happened in June. Ahmedabad air crash, which about 240 people died, collaterally 262 people overall.
Yeah.
Okay. So...
And actually, you should also tell our viewers that the Federal is also doing a series on that.
Yeah, we are doing a series on that, and we are obviously trying to suggest that the blame should not be on the pilot.
That's right.
It could be a technical fault as well. So, but it's a very complex issue to look at how an accident happened. We don't know, but it is possible that human fatigue is also adding to that. And then there are ground staff.
That's right, yeah.
And there are other logistics. Everything has to be moved in and put in place. And doing this, this attempt of FDTL was in line with global practices. That's what DGCA tried to do. Now, here the situation, like you said, if a company is growing on its own merit, why somebody should stop it? It's exactly because of the reason that the moment the company grows bigger, the efficiency starts falling. Then there is a kind of innovation stops happening. They start distorting the market because they have and they even can leverage what is also called as too big to fail.
Yeah.
State comes to their aid so that they don't fail.
Yeah.
So what has happened in this case? Who blinked first? It's DGCA which blinked first. They had given this a year ago. It was not implemented by IndiGo. There was also an extension because they asked and they were given. And then when they finally failed, what did DGCA? So they're given them more time till February next year. So it is like this. Suppose you are a policeman. Somebody violates rules. What will the policeman do? Will he punish him, or then he'll give him more time to mend himself? So what is happening here is DGCA has been reduced.
Maybe if the guy is a minister, then maybe policeman has to give him a lot of time.
Well, that's almost the situation here.
That's right,
so what is it happening? It's a kind of, some economists say, possibly it's a business-politician nexus. So when monopolies, it's possible that they also, after a point of time, convert into oligopolies.
That's right.
So that could also happen. So these are the, worries in a market, that what you're saying is fine. But then there is an index. It's called HHI index. Okay. Now it's from, suppose, in any industry, all the companies in the tree, square of the market share of each and add, the total shouldn't cross 10,000. 10,000 is the most concentrated market and 0 is the most competitive market. The score should be somewhere in between. Okay. Now for in India, for airline industry, it's about 4,900. Ultra concentration. Now, equivalent in America is, I think, 1,600. So it's a highly concentrated market. Now, European market. So see, Indian situation is typically very, very different because we are a very large country, almost a continent size, and large population, and the industry is really on a growth path. The numbers are really very huge here. Okay. And then all the airlines were on an expansion spree, madly expanding. The aviation here has been almost reaching an explosive stage here. So there is a lot of space for others to grow as well. So it's not necessary. So the government should provide a kind of a environment for other airlines also to come up rather than. So the very, the suspicion which happens when something like this happens, why was, DGCA giving so much of leeway to IndiGo? That's the question arises. Because it's a large market. There can be more players than this. So they can go beyond that. But, if we had to look at a larger space other than airlines, India has been thinking for a while that how do we scale up our industries? In India, largely, like you must have gone through recently, we were at the book launch of
A Sixth of Humanity.
Sixth of Humanity.
Devesh Kapoor,
Now, what was he saying?
Champions.
Midgets wake widgets.
Okay.
So what he meant was that size of the Indian companies was so small that we can only make small things for small people.
Yeah.
But if you really want to compete globally, you need to scale up. So to increase the financial muscle, the government was thinking, let's have more State Bank of India kind of. So let's kind of merge several banks. That's why you've been hearing about bank mergers, because they wanted to ensure that you have a big entity, banking entity, so that you have some muscle in financial sector. Similarly, other sectors also they're trying so that they can face the global market because our sizes are too small. So that is one objective as well. But then you had, the government has to see all these objectives are met and a consumer doesn't get hit because of all this. So I would expect the consumer also to get aware and then point out about these distortion which is happening in the market through raising his voice. You see, what happens is if you have a market where the consumer is at a receiving end in the sense that he has to pay money, after all the money goes from his pocket, he has to remain disciplined and he also should remain silent. That's not a good situation. He should be given a space to speak up.
You also spoke about the Competition Commission of India, the regulatory watchdog that got to be cracking down on all these monopolistic institutions, but that's really not happening here in India. In fact, Dr. Arvind Subramaniam was also critical when he was the chief economic advisor for India about the very working of the functioning of the CCI. But if you look at the US equivalent of that, which is the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, a lot of business leaders have spoken about this and how they've been extremely stringent, sort of cracking down on all these monopolistic institutions. One of those I remember is the Indra Nui's memoir called My Life in Full, where she has explained her journey with the FTC. So I think why do you think that India's the CCI is unable to function to the best of its caliber? What is actually making it not to do so?
Yeah, so it was a bit funny. Before coming here, I was looking at newspapers and then I saw in one of the pink papers, the report said the Competition Commission of India is going to look into this.
Okay,
so
they're just looking
into
this. Okay.
I mean, they're taking this seriously, and they're going to look into how this IndiGo thing happened, and they're also going to look at it whether there was any violation. See, these outfits should be proactive, and that is what they should be doing. And why they are not proactive is a good question. Probably they're not empowered. DGCA should be empowered. DGCA
as
should
empowered
not
as
be.
Niti Aayog.
Oh, well, I won't say Niti Aayog. See, institutions must necessarily be independent. Okay. And these are regulatory bodies must have teeth. They must be able to bite. They should be able to, punish companies when they get out of line. I'll give you an example. Mr. M.R. Shivaraman, who was the earlier Revenue Secretary, he said something interesting. He is also an aviation buff, and he is a pilot himself. And he later became DGCA. And he said, when I was in DGCA, I went to the minister and I said, look, you must give me independence. Then only I'll be able to function. See, how many, how many people will be able to see this in today's scenario?
Yeah.
I think you need officers like that. You need individuals like that who, they ensure the sanctity of institutions
are maintained.
and those are very important. So if CCI was a powerful body, they would have taken all these things proactively. I think it's expected that as you free up the market, regulators become more powerful and regulators start taking proactive things. Like you see in the case of stock markets also, SEBI, which actually over a period of amendments, they have come to a stage now where they can predict and stop a lot of, they can predict whatever is going in the market. Beforehand, they can start seeing the trends and start taking action. Similar things should come in other sectors also.
One last question there. So I also wanted to ask you, how do startups, India is also a booming economy where a lot of startups are now mushrooming across Indian cities, and smaller players can actually tackle these monopolistic institutions. It's not going to be an overnight job, right? And it's going to take a lot of time. So how can they do it? Where do they start, and what's the strategy that they should be adopting right now? And what's the strategy that the Indian government should be adopting right now to crack down and to make this economy a level playing field?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, HHI index. See, the thing here is that the government must see, the regulator must ensure, not government, the regulator must see that there is not concentration in the market, concentration of the market share. And therefore, a particular company doesn't run away with everything. So that's what they must ensure. They must bring in sufficient safeguards to do that. I'll give you a small thing. I was reading editorial of a prominent newspaper, and they said something interesting, that there was a similar situation in the US as well in the past. Of course, there was other thing. They were also called robber barons, if you know that, in the 18th, 19th century early. Then you have these, chairballs of Korea. South Korea, where they grew by allowing these companies to grow. Now, what happened in the case of US, they allowed state oil, Standard Oil, which controlled 99% of the market. They later broke it up into 34 companies. The Supreme Court of the United States did that. Similarly, in the case of AT&T,
the telecom company,
they allowed them to grow. And later in the 80s, till 80s they were allowed to go because for universal reach. So some of these objectives, if the government has this objective in mind and they allow a company to grow to a certain size and then they change, even these kind of things happen. But these are matured markets. Okay, what I'm talking about is India, aviation is at an nascent stage. It's just now it has begun to grow. Last few years have been, in last few decades actually, it's been growing very fast. But in a more mature market, like I said, in US and all, things are evened out. Now, there are different things in different markets. Like for Europe, it's not one single market. It's many nations, smaller size. But then the airlines are able to compete globally. So even if they don't compete domestically, they're able to expand, like Singapore Airlines, like Emirates, like
the Qatar Airways.
Yeah, all these airlines are able to give that quality of service and pricing where they can ferry global travelers. So I think the question is, your question was basically about what should be done so that smaller players don't get hurt, especially startup, because in India a lot of startups are also coming up. A lot more ambition here for the businesses to grow. So like I said, CC has to ensure, DGC has to ensure, in the case of aviation, other regulators have to ensure that they provide a level playing field. And all players have access, and there is no kind of a concession given to a bigger player.
Thank you very much, sir. Insightful talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.